A lot of people were talking about in 2020 and 2021 the Olympic opening ceremony of 2012 in England and how it connected with the happenings in 2020. And they saw like a lot of really strange symbolism in the ceremony, and they just thought it was strange, and I agreed. So I was recently introduced to another video, the opening ceremonies for the Paralympics in 2012, which was in the same place. And in it, I saw a connection with the happenings of 2020, but I also saw a connection to something else that I randomly stumbled upon. And I just thought it was really strange, so I just want to show you what I saw. So in the Paralympic opening ceremony, it began with Stephen Hawking talking about enlightenment, and then a huge umbrella lit on fire, and a bunch of people holding umbrellas dancing around. And then it had the Rihanna song, Umbrella, Ella, Ella, Ella. And then a theatric storyline was introduced.
And here we're going to be introduced to the central character of the evening, Miranda.
Go out into the world. Will you be, for all of us gathering here, our eyes, our ears, and our hearts? Shine your light on the beautiful diversity of humanity. Understand those rights that protect us. Look up, stretch your wings and fly. Will you take this journey for all of us? And will you set us free?
If these ceremonies really are some weird religious rituals, then we might want to view the content as symbolisms rather than taking everything at face value. Because back in the day, we can see a bunch of different tribes and a bunch of different nations who would perform rituals to certain gods or deities that might have a different name than a god or deity that this other tribe is performing rituals to, but there's very similar symbolism and representation of these deities that suggest that they're actually worshiping the same thing, but they're just performing the ritual in a different way. So maybe one group might have like a certain kind of mask and a certain dance, whereas the other group has a different mask and a different dance, but it's all pointing to the same idea of worshiping of a fire or some kind of specific deity that, you know, they're sacrificing something to and trying to conjure up some sort of reaction from the deity that they're performing the ritual and ceremony for. So after seeing the Miranda story thing, I just looked up Miranda demon, just trying to figure out if the name Miranda was specifically tied to some kind of a cult or whatever. And so then I was introduced to a video game that came out in 2017 called Resident Evil Biohazard. And it's a movie type video game that has a character named Mother Miranda. And so I looked up a video that described who Mother Miranda was and just summarized it. And while watching it, I was shocked by the similarities to the ceremony as well as to 2020. So firstly, there are many instances in the Paralympic ceremony that are attempting to involve the audience directly into the storyline. You hear him saying things like,
Will you be, for all of us gathering here, our eyes, our ears, and our hearts?
And
will you take this journey for all of us? And will you set us free?
For all of us, for everybody here tonight, you know. And then when everybody arrived to the stadium, they were given an apple and told to hold on to it until a specific part of the performance where they had everybody in the audience as well as everybody on the stage bite into the apple at the very same time to create this sound. Now, with this Resident Evil movie video game, it's a video game that's like a movie. And I think people that play video games might know more about this, but I had no idea about this. So there's video games that play out very similar to a movie, so it's entertaining in that way as well. And it's like you're watching this movie, but you're also interacting in it as a character in this movie. So if we look at both of these things as ceremonies, then part of the ritual is involving the audience into the ceremony. People who don't really know that it's a ceremony, but who are getting pulled into it. It gets much, much deeper than that. I wouldn't be making a video if it didn't. So I'm just going to start from the very beginning. First of all, when you see Mother Miranda, she's wearing a gold mask and has a gold ring behind her head. And it looks very similar to the gold ring that's dangling above the 2012 Paralympic ceremony.
This is the hidden story of Mother Miranda. The Mother Miranda that we know from Resident Evil Village is a powerful matriarch that uses her perverse scientific genius to control and contort the world around her. Early storyboarding suggested she would be more like a modern researcher that had arrived in the village to try and figure out what mutations have done to the populace. What we ended up with, though, the Mother Miranda we know, I think is a whole lot better. The story of Mother Miranda begins over 100 years ago. In 1919, a Spanish flu ravages the Eastern European countryside, and Miranda lost her daughter to the virus.
If you weren't hiding under a rock during 2020, then you probably saw a lot of people talking about the similarities between the 2020 goings-on and what happened in the 1918 flu outbreak.
At 10 years old, Eva was everything to Miranda, and in a fit of despair, she looked to end her own life from exposure in a nearby cave. Inside that cave, she discovered an entity.
You also probably heard about a theory that the 2020 outbreak was a result of a lab leak of a virus that they were experimenting on that they found in these bats when they were studying these caves.
My Eva, it's been 100 years since I lost you to the Spanish flu. I was so powerless back then. But now I can bring you back to life from the Megamycete. I had to test your new vessel's regenerative abilities. I took her apart and revived her in the Megamycete regulator, the Giant's Chalice. All that is left is to merge her with the Megamycete. The ceremony can finally begin. After I lost you, I was so stricken with grief that I wandered into a cave to die. I so wanted to be with you again. And that's when I found it, the Megamycete, completely by accident. When I touched the black substance, my mind was overcome with knowledge. The Megamycete breaks down and absorbs the consciousness of those who have perished. I knew that if your consciousness was in there too, then there would be a way to bring you back. I just needed the right vessel. When I returned to the village, I implanted the villagers with mold from the Megamycete. That way I could control them, experiment on them. I have experimented on hundreds of people, just to find you the perfect vessel. I even tried to increase the efficiency of finding a vessel by creating a parasite I called Cadeau. Yet none of my experiments came to fruition. There were some, like Alcina, who were close to being perfect, but most turned into lichens. I was once approached by an organization who said they would assist me. I gave them some of the mold and your DNA, but all they created was another defect. Evelyn. Then again, not a complete failure. I learned of Rose thanks to them, and I knew she would be the perfect vessel. There was some interference, but I was able to verify her suitability. Now my research is finally complete. Eva, I have waited too long to see you again.
So here you can see that Miranda is in charge of controlling all these people, much like in the ceremony where he says, Miranda, will you be the eyes and ears and hearts of everybody here? Will you take over and control us? And that's what Miranda's doing in the video game. She's a scientist who has the power suddenly to control all these people and their minds by use of this fungus.
There is a lot to unpack here, but let's start with the Megamycete itself. It contained the consciousness of her dead daughter, and it set Miranda on a path to try and revive her. Over the decades, she refined and studied the mold of the Megamycete and discovered that by creating a parasite vessel for the mold called a Cadeau, the powers of this mold would be more easily transferred.
So this Megamycete image reminded me of these videos I saw of the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines under a microscope.
So when I first saw that image, I thought, oh, well, that could be anything, right? That could be a mold spore that is starting to sprout. And I thought to myself, well, is this mold contamination of a Moderna sample.
Hey everyone, there's some new video going around social media that's purporting to be Pfizer vaccine at 2000 magnification. Very interesting and concerning footage in my opinion. But basically what they're saying here is they don't know exactly what they're looking at, but this appears to be some sort of an organism. Some sort of a cell with a nucleus in here. They also mentioned a possibility of Morgellons. They also talk about these little white and black dots that you can see moving around inside of the cell. And there's also something that they call a pipeline where the little dots will sometimes travel through. And then you can see at the bottom of the shot, when it pans down, it opens up, and I'm not exactly sure what we're looking
For the mold called a cadeau, the powers of this mold would be more easily transferred. We discover that during the plague times in the village, Miranda dubbed her new discovery as the Black God. She looked to sacrifice the entire village to this god to possibly bring back Eva. Ultimately, she didn't have the power to do that, so instead, Miranda gained a cult-like following by infecting the villagers, testing their suitability to become Eva's vessel, with some being cured of their ailments thanks to the cadeau parasite, and others turning into vicious creatures known as lichens. This gave her the status of mother to the village, and she began to be both revered and feared.
Are pretty interesting. What are they, 4 meters tall?
Something of a god herself. The cadeau parasite even became the sigil of the town, the golden rings around it.
So the symbol is basically a circle with an X that's crossing through the circle. And you see that symbolism all over the 2012 Paralympic ceremony.
The golden rings around it meant to symbolize the sun, space, and eternity.
We've flown towards what's being called a celestial sphere.
Around it meant to symbolize the sun, space, and eternity.
So they're saying that the sphere during the Paralympic ceremony is symbolizing the celestial plane, meaning the sun, space, and the heavens. So now we're going to jump to another theme in this video game movie, which is the Umbrella Corporation and how it connects to Mother Miranda. Again, a huge theme in the Paralympic ceremony.
During those long decades, she also met with a young student named Oswell E. Spencer, a man who would go on to create the Umbrella Corporation. She even received a letter from her long-lost student years after their first meeting. Dear Miranda, my deepest apologies for not meeting you in person. I would love nothing more than to visit your quaint village once more. However, I'm incredibly busy. Then again, I suppose for an immortal woman such as yourself, you no longer remember this poor, half-dead medical student in the snow. I have always cherished the revelations I came to 15 years ago when I stayed in your village. I was inspired by your research. To think one could transform a human by infecting them with an organism. Positively visionary. I knew that with that knowledge I could achieve my own vision for the next step in human evolution. Even after 2 world wars and humanity on the cusp of another, my conviction never wavered. I realized, however, through the many nights of intellectual talks you and I shared, that your conviction differed from mine. You hoped to bring back a single dead person, while I aimed to change the world. Your experiments on the mold would not have aided me in my endeavor to achieve an exponential infection. I thought a virus would be more effective. This is why, my dear, I had to leave you. I still regret never telling you goodbye. My apologies for reminiscing. I actually have news that I thought might please you. I have found the key to evolution, the progenitor, a virus found in Africa. I plan to start a company with friends and colleagues dedicated to the virus research. I will call it Umbrella, just like the symbol in the cave that we spoke about. Umbrella, just like the symbol in the cave that we spoke about. I am one step closer to making my vision a reality. I hope you'll be able to achieve your goal someday too. You taught me so much, and for that I will forever be in your debt. Sincerely, your lifelong student, Oswell E. Spencer.
We call on thee within the endless as the midnight moon rises on black wings.
2012 London Paralympic Games. This is the opening ceremony. Amy Bainbridge with you and Chris Waddell. You've got to keep that under wraps for me.
I will make sure to sample your blood for later. Once dawn breaks, the ceremony will be complete, and I will become her true mother, bound for eternity in blood.
Our eyes, our ears, and our hearts. Look up. Stretch your wings and fly.
I also see an interesting resemblance between her outfit and this guy's image here with the black thing behind him. And you can even see like the shoulders of the dress come out.
Capcom originally had some very different ideas for the mother. According to concept art, Mother Miranda wasn't intended originally to be a mother at all, but instead a charismatic cult leader, a man.
When Isaac Newton saw an apple fall to the ground, he suddenly realized that it must be the same force that holds together the beautiful system of the sun, the planets, and the comets. This gravity is the same force that can draw us into a black hole, never to return.
Miranda, immerse yourself in the wonders of science and the universe.
Miranda gained a cult-like following by infecting the villagers, with some being cured of their ailments thanks to the Cadeau parasite, and others turning into vicious creatures known as lichens, with the 4 crow's wings representing the 4 lords.
Here we can see this woman who's singing at the Paralympics has 4 people around her who are all wearing feathers or wings on their heads. And now listen carefully to the song that she's singing in the lyrics.
There's one life, and there's no return and no deposit.
So I'm sure there's a lot more. In this ceremony, it talks a lot about the Large Hadron Collider and getting sucked into black holes and all sorts of enlightenment, and it's just a very strange and religious seeming ceremony. The connection with this video game, in theory, could be that there is some sort of underlying religious belief between the elite or some secret society that we don't actually directly know about, but we still are being involved in some ritual of some scientific deity or something. Do you see what I see? Open up your eyes, please. Stars are shining brightly. Is it a full moon? Yeah, I think it might be. Can you see what I see? The sun is shining brightly. It's starting to blind me. I wanna rub my eyes and close them tightly. I thought you were the one, I still think you might be. But you fucked it all up. I guess you are just like me. Open up your eyes, open up your eyes, open up your eyes. Can you really not see what I see when you look into the sky? Is it a full moon? Yeah, I think it might be. Marching one by one to the grave. Ignorance is bliss, or so they say. Let's ignore the rest. Just for today, we went too far. Now it's too late. It could be too late now to be saved. It doesn't take a genius to know you've been played. Was it such an inconvenience to separate the truth from the shade? Open up your eyes, open up your eyes, open up your eyes. See what I see. The stars are shining so very brightly. If you don't already know about it, then I got something to show about it. If you wanna take it slow, I'll follow your flow. We can talk all night and see where it goes. You see what I see? Open up your eyes, please. The night sky's lit, the stars are shining brightly. It might be worth it to open up your eyes and see. One by one to the grave. It doesn't take a genius to know you've been played. This world's a scary place and that's nothing new. We've all made mistakes, we've all been confused, we've all
falling down. Our knees might get bruised, but we stand back up. That's just about all we can do.
Do you see what I see? Open up your eyes, please. Stars are shining brightly. Is it a full moon? Yeah, I think it might be.